going to be Cesare. Cesare is from the College of Arts and Science, and she'll be presenting today. She's doing a Master's in Communication. Will be starting her PhD in fall of 2014. Her interests are in communication and rural development, as well as persuasive communication, general interest in development and perception of African, blog about African achievement. Her title for her presentation today is Of Tribe, War, Jungles, a study of American college student perception of Africa. At this time, I welcome her.
Thank you, David. I feel really privileged to stand here in front of you and talk about my motivation for choosing my thesis topic. Since I have just 10 minutes, I'm just going to go right on ahead. 2 years ago, I heard Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk titled, The Danger of a Single Story. Chimamanda is a renowned African novelist who completed her college and post-college education in the United States. In the presentation, she spoke about her first-hand experience with the misperceptions about Africa. Her American roommate had marveled at her well-spoken English, her Mariah Carey tape that she had brought from Nigeria, and assumed that she did not know how to use a stove because she was African. Her roommate had even felt sorry for her before seeing her. And I quote in Chimamanda's words, "Her default position towards me, as an African, was a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a single story of catastrophe. In this single story, there was no possibility of Africans being similar to her in any way. No possibility of feelings more complex than pity. No possibility of a connection as human equals." I thought Chimamanda's experience was rather interesting and funny until I started experiencing the same plight. While pursuing graduate school in the United States, the first time I remember experiencing the effects of what was clearly a misconception about Africa was at one of my first campus jobs. I was walking to work as I usually did, and I got startled by the sight of the big deer standing a few feet ahead of me in my path. I stood frozen on the spot for a few seconds and then turned around and ran back home. I started calling friends and colleagues for a ride to work because I was too afraid of the deer to walk that path again. I eventually got to work late and excitedly explained my story and fears to my colleagues. One of them looked at me with surprise in his eyes and asked, "Wait, you are afraid of a deer? Aren't you supposed to be from Africa?" It was my first semester in the United States. I was not familiar with deers as I am now. I see them all the time in my backyard and everywhere. I had never encountered such proximity to an animal as wild as a deer outside the protective bars of a zoo, or the protective enclosure of a safari. Another of such encounters was with a friend of mine. We had met each other through working on a project together and had been friends for over 2 months. I was telling her how I planned to stick to the same brand of computer that I was using in Nigeria because of how well it had served me. I went on to boast about how durable and resilient it had been in different situations. She stopped me in my explanations, apologized, and said she could not put together the picture of me using such a sophisticated computer in my little African hut. I asked her what she meant and realized that because I am African, that she had assumed that because I am African, I lived in a mud hut with thatched roofing. Prior to moving to the United States, I personally could not get past the question, what do American college students really think about Africa? And why do they have those perceptions? Why do they have the perceptions that they have? These were the questions that motivated me to choose my topic of tribes, wars, and jungles. a study of American students' knowledge about Africa. The analysis of my study has been completed. I'm currently writing notes, and if you're interested in the results and procedures carried out for the study, you can contact me after this event, and I'll send you information about the defense dates, and you can come to my defense dates in April. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to shift gear a little bit. I'm going to ask Juan Jose to present for us 10 minutes.
Well, aski Haikipanaya, Ilatanaka, Yakanaka, Takpacha Makichirinaka, that's my native language, Aymara. And I greet to you saying, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. And I greet in Aymara, which is an ancient language. So today, I'm going to talk about the education impacts in Aymara and Quechua Ayllus, and the uprising of ancient civilizations in the plurinational state of Bolivia. Well, our history is related to the ancient civilizations in the South American subcontinent. There is a data that demonstrate that at least 20,000 years of people who were living in the Andes continent. So around the world there are a lot of civilizations that were developed and at different points in the history. So now talking about the education, we are transforming the country. But before to get there, I will talk about the past, because in the pre-colonial education, next. Oh. In the pre-colonial education, we have the Tiahuanaco Empire, in which the education was focused in familiar and communitarian that addressed the needs of the population. The maximum expression of this time was the Tiahuanaco archaeological place, in which we can see we have our holy temple, and in this part we can observe the gate of the sun that have recorded our agricultural calendar that was used in order to guide the intensive agricultural activities in the Andes. So, next please. After that time, we have the Koya Aymara education that was developed from Catamarca, northwest of Argentina, to Cajamarca, northern Peru, and it focuses the education in the Aymara kingdoms in the Collasuyo. So this education was in life and for life. So the society prepared the young generations to deal with real situations of life, and it was really useful because it helped the Andean cultures to deal with extreme weather conditions, to develop different kinds of natural technology such as irrigation systems, artificial swamps, and also terraces that were able to produce from the highlands to lower lands, from 6,000 meters over the sea level to 4 or 3,000 meters in all the Andes mountains. So after this time, we have the Tahuantinsuyo, which is well known as the Inca Empire, in which the state creates the Yachayhuasis and Ajiahuasis. So this period of time, the education was just for the elites, for the noble people. But after that, Pachacutec was one of the strongest Inca, provide education for the whole people, but also imposing the language, which is Quechua. And today, Quechua people or people who speak Quechua live in Peru, in Bolivia, in north of Argentina. So this empire covered a great percentage or great portion of the Andes Mountains. This period of time also was characterized because the state promoted the production of textiles, pottery, goldsmith, and it supported also the construction of cities, temples, roads, palaces, and it was not just one culture, it was the alliance with other cultures. So as we can see in South America, there are different cultures that still live there. The points that they unite in order to develop the Inca Empire. Next, please. Now, based on these results, we developed 4,000 kinds of varieties, more than 200 kinds of corn, and the education in the Republic was not allowed for Aymara or Quechua people. It was also a struggle trying to get land, to preserve their original lands, and trying to get education. But this struggle was triggered revolutions, constant revolutions that were transforming the reality of the Aymara and Quechua people, and now it forged the 2009 revolution that in Bolivia is called the plurinational change, the process of change that are transforming the reality of the people. So this research that is based on the facts and the historical background are demonstrating that the Aymara and Quechua people just demonstrate themselves that they forge their future. Actually, they are not a marginalized culture. They are an influential part of the national life of the plurinational state of Bolivia because they comprise the 70% of the population of this country. So if you heard about the process of change in Latin America, the plurinational state of Bolivia is leading one of them, and it's really different from the other countries. But at the same time, it is the uprising of Aymara and Quechua people who have lived in the Andes for more than 20,000 years. And it is demonstrating also and recovering the ancient heritage that these people have. As I said, the technological and natural technology that serve and is really useful for our people because our people live healthy. For example, there is a man who has 123 years. So that demonstrates that the grains, the food, and everything that we produce, it's really organic and healthy. And we want to spread it all around the world. For example, quinoa is really famous right now. Why? Because it is able to grow in arid zones without a lot of water. So we are transferring that kind of technology, that way of agriculture to all the world. So it is just the beginning, and we just started. So today we see a better future, and we will have a bright future in some more years. So I say that what is real lingers, and what is not, it just vanishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan. Talk to Juan outside of the Grad Talks here. He's pursuing a doctoral degree in clinical psychology at Western Michigan here. His research focuses on the effective training and dissemination of evidence-based practice. Additionally, he's currently a doctoral level psychology intern in behavioral and developmental pediatric and adolescent medicine at Western Michigan University School of Medicine. Motivational interviewing, one-day workshop training. And so he'll be talking about motivational interviewing, so welcome, Justin.
All right, thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be moving around a little bit because that podium seems a little stifling. So the first portion, so today we'll be talking about a one-day workshop training study pertaining to motivational interviewing. The first portion will be a little interactive. All right, so we're going to start off with this scenario. So if the depressed client says, I like to do more, take better care of myself, eat right, exercise, but I'm so depressed, it seems like there's just no energy. So which of these are the most effective therapist response and why from the MI stance? A, why do you label yourself as depressed? B, tell me more about taking better care of yourself. C, you should make a schedule to exercise and really try to stick to it. D, with that being said, eating more fruits, vegetables, and vegetables are good, are a good start to a better diet. Anyone?
B or
A. So I get some A's here, I get some B's here. Why? Why A?
Because you have to know your problem first and then you can solve it.
Okay, so you have to know the problem first and then you can start what?
You can solve this problem later.
Okay, okay. Now why B? Someone said B.
It's kind of getting to know the person beyond the surface.
Say that again?
It's getting to know the person beyond the surface of what's initially presented.
Okay, so going beyond the surface from what is initially given. Right, so from an MI consistent response would be paying attention to change talk. So an MI consistent response is differential or selective attention to any nuggets of change related talk. So that would be B. Tell me more about taking better care of yourself. All right? So motivational interviewing, what is it, right? It is an evidence-based practice that has been supported by over 200 publications, right? And it's efficacious in its ability to decrease resistance and increase treatment retention with a multiplicity of issues across a variety of settings, all right? These are some examples of some of the things that motivational interviewing is good to work for. You can see it working in settings such as hospitals. You can see it in settings such as private practices. You can see it at the university. What it does is, the wonderful thing about this treatment is that it can mix well with other treatments, like cognitive behavior therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy, or physicians can use it with medication compliance issues, right? Now, since motivational interviewing has been adopted as evidence-based practice, the focus has shifted to best ways to disseminate and train motivational interviewing. So this particular project looks at, in 8 hours, can we train the primary skills and active components of motivational interviewing emphasized in the literature, right? So this study examines the efficacy of a one-day, 8-hour workshop training study guided by the MIA-STEP protocol. So the MIA-STEP protocol is a protocol that was devised by SAMHSA. SAMHSA is a government organization that has attempted to disseminate motivational interviewing, right? And once we've extrapolated information from the MIA-STEP, we constructed our training using, in accordance to the behavior skills training model, which is instruct, which is model, which is role play, and then feedback, all right? So once we constructed this training, we wanted to see, can we train up or increase MI consistent responding from the training? Can we get novel MI consistent responding? So I'm in the treatment outcome lab, right? So the treatment outcome lab is involved with multiple different types of research. One particular research endeavor is dismantling studies. So this research has guided how I conceptualize and conduct the research that I do, right? So what dismantling is many people are aware of these packages, like packages called CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. All right, we know it works, right? So when you do this package of cognitive restructurants and behavior activation, it decreases depression, right? But many people don't know what within that package or these evidence-based practices causes the one to change. So what my laboratory does is we dismantle studies and we look for the mechanisms of action or the active ingredients that causes the one to change, right? So with my study and everything that I do, I look for the active components. So within motivational interviewing, the mechanism of action that causes the one to change is increased change flow, right? So the proposed causal change in MI is that a strategic therapist behavior increases in-session change talk. And from that increased change talk, it's linked to better behavioral outcomes, right? So everything we do in these trainings, we teach people how to pay attention to and selectively attend to this thing called change talk. What is change talk? Change talk can be operationalized in this acronym called RMC statements, right? And these are some examples of the statements. So desire to change, ability to change, reason to change, need to change, and commitment to change. So anytime these things come up in session, you want to pay attention to it, right? So let's look at this one. I could do better in school if I wanted to, but it's just so boring. So an accurate MI response would pay close attention to the ability portion of that statement, right? So an accurate MI consistent response would be, so you said you can do better in school if you wanted to. Tell me more about that. So in order to see if we can increase MI consistent responses, we generated a vignette that was very similar to the ones that you all just experienced. But the difference is it was not multiple choice, right? It was just an open response that was requested from the participants, where they had to generate novel MI consistent responses to the scenarios that we gave them. Right? So the vignettes were 10 statements to assess the ability to implement primary skills conveyed in the workshop. So MI consistent responses, did they effectively attend to these change thought statements within these vignettes? Now, a MINT member trained in MI coding on response to clinical vignettes scored the measures. Now, what MINT is Motivational Interviewing Network for Trainers. That is basically a professional group that are professional MI practitioners and trainers. So this MINT member, independently of the study, did not attend the workshop and completed blind coding. This is the rubric that he followed. So 0, meaning MI non-consistent responses. 1 is somewhat consistent, and 2 is MI consistent responses. So the results are as such. We hypothesized that there would be increased MI consistent responses, right? So what we did is to evaluate this hypothesis, we analyzed independent responses of the MINT trainer on the clinical vignette scores filled out by participants before and after the training. So a change or a significant change in ratings from pre to post would capture an MI consistent change. So as predicted, there was a statistical significant difference from pre-workshop clinical vignette scores to post clinical vignette scores. So this hypothesis was supported. Next, we hypothesized that from this one-day workshop, and again, one of the things that we really focused on is the empirically supported techniques. So one thing that differentiated our training than possibly many others is that we extrapolated only the empirically supported techniques into this, and we included them into this workshop. Okay. So we hypothesized that participating in the workshop, there would be an increase in MI knowledge according to the MI knowledge questionnaire, and that knowledge would maintain over a 30-day interval. So we had 3 groups. 2 groups we clustered together because they did not have MI contact over the 30-day interval. The first group is this group 1 here. Now, as hypothesized, there was a statistical significant difference between these pre-workshop and post-workshop scores. Unfortunately, at 30-day post-follow-up, there was a substantial decrement of MI knowledge during the interval of the 30-day follow-up period. So this hypothesis was partially supported. We did have an opportunity after we finished with these 2 groups that we clustered together in group 1 to run another group of 6 participants that were enrolled in a course that they were enrolled in a course that required them during the 30-day interval to have contact with MI, take quizzes in MI, and memorize certain aspects of MI. And we saw that there was not a significant difference between post-workshop scores and follow-up scores, which shows that with consistent contact with MI content, knowledge was maintained. Thank you.
Put your hands together again for Justin Moore. Wow, we have talented Western research. I love it. I love to be in this environment. And I encourage others to apply for our next Grad Talks, which is going to be in September of 2014, our next academic year. This is our last Grad Talk for this semester. At this time, I want to welcome Roma Johnny. Roma Johnny is from Trinidad and Tobago, which is in the Caribbean, of course, and she came from an Indian heritage. She used to work as a youth educator in her country for 5 years before coming to the U.S. She's currently on a Fulbright scholarship and is enrolled in my department, of course, counseling psychology. She's doing a master's here. She intends to go on for a PhD. Her title of her presentation is The Challenges and Newness of Moving West. In this presentation, she would like to highlight some of the challenges and newness of moving west, from Trinidad and Tobago to the USA. She will discuss the challenges she personally experienced, such as moving from family, friends, and comfort lifestyle for the opportunity of American education. In addition to the challenges, she will speak to numerous opportunities to create wonderful memories while living and studying in the US. She hopes to discuss strategies that she used to assist in the integration into the American culture. Please welcome Roma Johnny.
Thank you and good evening. Did we have lights on before?
Yeah.
Mind to help people, and then I'm here to talk about my life experiences. I don't know how exciting that's going to be, but I'll try to make it as exciting as possible for you all. So I just want to say at this time as well, thank you to GSAC for giving me the opportunity to present today. I never thought I would stand in front of anybody to tell my life story kind of thing, but it's a wonderful opportunity, so thank you so much. So my name is Roma Johnny and I am from Trinidad and Tobago. So it is in the Caribbean. Anyone familiar with Jamaica? Just a few Barbados. Anybody know Rihanna? Right. So we're in the same place geographically. So usually, like when I tell people I'm from Trinidad, people say, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, you have no idea what I'm talking about." And then I have to go through the whole explanation. So I just want to give you a little logistic. Why I said I'm going to talk about challenges and newness moving west. The Caribbean is east of the US. So for me to get there, I need to move west. Okay? So the Caribbean, much like the US, is built on colonization and immigration. Hence, if you're wondering, she looks Indian, but she's from India. I'm not from India, but I have East Indian heritage because of indentureship, because of immigration, because of colonization. I speak English as my first language. Prior to coming to the US, I did most of my tertiary education in Trinidad and Tobago at the University of the West Indies. And I speak very quickly, So if you're not hearing everything I'm saying, you can say, Johnny, hold on, and I'll slow down, right? So I did most of my formal education in psychology at the University of the West Indies. And I worked as a youth educator. Basically, my role was providing personal development workshops to students from this high to this high in secondary, high school, and elementary schools. And in that capacity, I saw a number of psychological disorders, psychological behavior, psychological manifestations, not just in the classroom and not just with those young people, but in the communities and in families. And that kind of struck a lot to me and my interest in psychology. So I knew that I wanted to pursue psychology beyond a bachelor's degree, and I wanted to be able to go back home and help my country develop their mental health sector and services. So hence I applied for a Fulbright scholarship, and today I'm here talking to you all 6 months after receiving a Fulbright scholarship. So I'm very new to the US. I'm supposed to be in my honeymoon stage with the United States and the excitement and the burst of energy and opportunities. But honestly, it has not been a bad process for me. And just by looking at it, we have a lot of people in here who's not from America. Am I correct? Yeah. So I'm really hoping today that part of my discussion would kind of take you back to a place when you first came to the US, maybe when you first came to Michigan, to Kalamazoo, and maybe you will be able to relate to some of the things that I'm speaking about. So, in moving to the US and that phone call, Miss Johnny has been accepted as a Fulbright student, and I was excited. But the excitement didn't last long. When I went to my apartment, I had no apartment. I was totally screwed. Whoever was handling my affairs from the US, my room wasn't ready. So I was left in Kalamazoo, 7 o'clock in the night, trying to find a hotel to stay at, just so that I'm not one of those who's sleeping on a suitcase outside on the street of the name that I don't know of, kind of thing. Luckily, I did run into someone who had a hotel prepared, so I was able to stay with her. Went back the next day to this apartment complex, spent the entire weekend battling. They never had an apartment for me. So again, I was there, and I'm like, this is my first weekend in Kalamazoo. I know no one. My cell phone wasn't on room, so I couldn't barely even call anybody home to say, oh my God, I need someone to come and get me. So it was challenging, but at the same time, I always had that support. There was somebody there who I just met by chance, someone I didn't even know, someone from Russia, who was there and said, you know what, I have an apartment. Why don't you stay with me a few days until? I never expected that. I never expected to meet someone from Russia. I never thought about Russia in Trinidad. So this was a really, really amazing opportunity for me. But I knew then that it was just one of the many challenges that I would have, and probably one of the many challenges all of you all went through, and many other international students will have to go through. So my apartment and stuff got sorted out, but then December came and I got so cold. And I said to myself, how am I, a tropical girl, going to survive winter in Michigan? Yeah. I went to so many different stores begging people, how do I shop for a winter coat? What do I need to look for? Because I have never had to prepare for something like that. And I see people shaking their head, and I guess you can relate. So it was challenging, like every day I would call home when I got Skype. I would call and say, I don't know what I'm looking for. There's so many different things. Should I get something that's fashionable because that's what people are going to see? Or does keeping warm really matter? So the weather was a total change, moving from an island to Kalamazoo, Michigan. Moving from tropical sun to snowstorms and blizzards. And this was my first winter experience, so you know how excited I was about that. But still, the US culture has never been one that's foreign or totally foreign to me. In the Caribbean, we usually say, that we're westernized as well. The food that we eat, the music that we listen to, the movies, clothes everywhere. It's all westernized, so kind of basically copycat American culture. So my favorite breakfast, pancakes. Right? So it wasn't anything new to me. But there was still some differences. So even though I speak English, when I'm here in the classroom, it's hard for me to understand the lecturer's accent. It's hard for me to understand my friends when they speak, sometimes the words that they use. And there are times that I want to bring my own dialect. So I said, let's go lime. And people are like, lime? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what is the American translation? Let's go hang out. Because lime is a word that we use in Trinidad when we say we're going to hang out. So it was so much of a challenge, even though English is my first language. It was still difficult for me to speak English or to understand English when a professor spoke. So the pace that they spoke with, their accent, it was all challenging. And then, like, I'm a vegetarian, so I cook a lot of what I eat. But there are things that I like, such as popcorn. So when I go to a football match and I see popcorn, I say, yes, popcorn. But then when I put popcorn in my mouth, it's cold. And I'm like, who eats cold popcorn? This is not real, this is not happening. No offense to Americans, it was just a culture shock. And I said, okay, I'm not having that popcorn anymore. But I mean, like, I thought that, I never thought that moving to the US would have been such of a shock. But I realized that even though there were some things that I could relate to, there were things that are totally new to me. So when I go to tailgate, I'm in awe that people eat in the car park. I'm like, let's take our food and sit and look at the game. And then you have to eat in the car park because that's the American thing. And then you go and look at the football match. So that's different for me. But all of that said, my biggest challenge, and I'm not sure if anybody else can relate, I'm hoping somebody else would be able to relate because I think it's something that happens that students experience but they never talk about it. And that's identity. I came to the US not thinking anything about culture, not thinking anything about race or ethnicity, about my own identity. And then I came here and there are so many people, even though Trinidad is a multicultural society, there are so many people who didn't know how to relate to me. People asked me, are you Indian? People spoke to me in Spanish. People said, where the hell is the Caribbean? Right? When I gave the whole explanation about Trinidad being a British colony, someone says to me every time, he says, do you want to have tea? And I said, no, I don't want to have tea. I'm not British. so it's, I mean, like, I know you spoke earlier about, the misperception and some misgivings people have. And it is so true, and I never thought that, I would be faced with this situation. Someone said to me, what do you all do in Trinidad? You all sit by the beach and drink coconut. So it was challenging. Every time I met someone, I have to explain Trinidad and the geography of Trinidad and how Trinidad came to be. I have to explain why I'm East Indian, although I'm not from India. I have to, give so many descriptions, and it was frustrating. It is still frustrating sometimes. But then I said to myself, look at this as an opportunity to educate someone else. Because sometimes, as a Fulbright student, I met people from all over the world. I met people from Iceland, I met people from Bolivia, I met people from Tunisia, Mongolia, all these START countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, places that I can't even spell, and I don't even know where it is. I heard the name, but I don't even know where to go on the map for it. I've met all those people, and I said, sometimes maybe I come across as a little offensive when I'm like, oh, okay, and I really have no idea. So there was some challenges. Anybody here so far can relate to those challenges? Experienced it? Okay, so it's not all in my head. I'm going. But I mean, with the challenges, there were good things that happened, but I never paid attention to them. Someone said recently that, I was reading a book and it said that our brain is pre-wired to focus on the negative because of that fight and flight response. So we cue in more to the negative things around us, but we never really pay attention to the positive stuff. So in the positive of all that was happening with me, I was able to meet people, new faces, awesome people, really strong, vibrant people. I have the opportunity to stand here in front of you all, hear some of you all speak about things that's happening with you. And You know, there's still an excitement in living in Kalamazoo. And I'm very careful in saying that because I realize that living in Kalamazoo and the experience is subjective. I'm really happy living in Kalamazoo. I have friends who will be like, no, Kalamazoo is not the place to be. But it's subjective. I think it's nice, I think it's quite friendly and it's beautiful. And it is beautiful. When I came here at the end of August, everything was bright and colorful. There were like roses on the street. And that was so pretty to me. And even when it started to snow, it was such a beautiful sight. I look outside my class window and it's almost as if I'm looking into a snow globe. I can see, little people walking around. Well, when you're on the fourth floor in Sandburn anyway, people walking around and it's just so pretty. Snow is falling, even though, it's not green, the trees are still white. It's fresh, it's nice, and something about it. And I realized then that for me to be able to enjoy my experience in the US, and I do want to enjoy it, I need to be able to find that beauty in everything. Look at something and yes, I'm kind of into what is happening that's not bad, but I have to be able to see what are the good things that's happening as well. So, to help me keep that excitement, I had to change the way that I think, or the way that I thought about things when things happen. So when challenges came, I had to say to myself, okay, yes, maybe a challenge, but what is going to happen here that can benefit me? So, and that's something that I started to do in psychology. It's called cognitive restructuring. Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. Can't really find Justin right now. Is he still here? He must have left. Okay. So it's called cognitive restructuring. So there were a lot of bad times, and I'm certain in the rest of my stay there are going to be more challenges. But I realized that the onus is upon me to create memories that I want to create. And how did I do that? I basically tried to apply a lot of coping strategies that I don't know if it worked for you, and if it may work for you, and that's something that I want to emphasize. Connecting with people. Fulbright allows us to connect with a community of international students that really helps to support each other. Like there's so many people I can call and I know that they're understanding what I'm going through. So one of the things that I would encourage people, you all are probably here a little while now, but if ever you encounter someone who needs this kind of information, connect with other students, especially those who are going through similar experiences as you are. Ask for help, and I've encouraged many people, especially those whose first language is not English, let your professors know if you are having challenges in the classroom. Because sometimes they take for granted that everyone in the class can speak English and understand English very well. And then you see it when you get a D or when you get a C in the class. So I usually let my professors know this is a difficult class to me because, and I encourage people to have that as well. And counseling services. There is something called the International Circle. It's a support group for international students and persons like myself or like us who have these different challenges. So utilize the services that the counseling center provides us, what they're being paid for and what we're paying money for as well. And of course, spirituality, find that connection, whoever you connect with in terms of your God, your higher being. Draw strength and energy from that and do the things that you want to do. All the fun stuff, right? Go to the gym, go to the movies, do all these wonderful trips that you can go to Chicago, Grand Rapids. But most important, celebrate yourself and every stuff. Celebrate everything that you do and celebrate with others. There's nothing good. There's no better feeling as knocking up your bottle with 2%. Right? I don't know because I don't drink, but I usually have lemonade. And it's still the same feeling, to be able to say cheers to somebody helps you to feel alive. So celebrate and be happy because it's all a decision. It's all about, how we want to make our life and our stay in the US, and particularly for me, how I want to spend my time here as a graduate student. And that is where the newness comes in. What am I doing that helps me to make this decision? And I usually use the word decide as an acronym because it means to have the determination, that strength and willpower to live. Live in this moment and in each moment without any worries. Be carefree and have the courage to face all that life throws at us, the good and the bad, and love. Love each moment of life. Find love in everything that you do. Fall in love. Fall in love plenty of times. It's okay, right? But love yourself. Love your life and accept yourself fully and completely. And dance. Express yourself. Show everyone your uniqueness. show everyone your country, what your country has done to you, what you have brought here in this WMU experience. And I'm guaranteeing you, once you're able to do these things, you will be the embodiment of success in all that you do, and especially through the trying moments. So just decide. And that's what I did. I just decided. Thank you.
Thank you all. Keep the round of applause going. Thanks to all the presenters who are still here. I want to say thank you so much for applying to present on this program. We have just started. You know, there are some things that we need to fix, like probably time and when we have these presentations and invite more people, different strategies. But just like anything else in life, when you start out, you have to reevaluate, assess, and plan again. And so that's what we keep on doing. I want to thank you as a wonderful audience. I know it's Friday evening and you have lots to do, but thank you for coming and thank you for staying and invite more people when we reconvene in September. Have a wonderful weekend and see you next time. Thank you.